I have a good story. Well, there were so we each had another
If I can have everybody's attention, we're ready to begin. Thanks for being here. And I'm just going to turn this over to our esteemed architect.
Just like that. Hi everybody, thanks for coming. We're excited to share with you mostly updates, but we've also done a little bit, we've gotten started, I should say. And we have a sneak peek of what the architects are doing, kind of a sneak peek into the architect's sketchbook. So I'm saying that with the caveat that things are going to change, things are expected to change, but we're bringing this to you today a little bit to get some feedback and some thoughts, and so we'll try to leave enough time at the end for that. So hopefully you're excited as we are, and off we go.
Yeah, and not to forget, this is going to be a very quick introduction because we just got sort of the formal program as of like a week ago. So we took that, ran with that, and have some goodness to kind of share and show today. So let's start with some updates. First off, we got moving on a site banner, and we have given you a sense of what that's going to look like on your site. And the great news is we had that thing produced this is the
We're so easy. Look at that.
Oh my goodness. That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Just tip it.
There we go.
Tip it.
So imagine it on the site, and here it is right in front of you. So we got this done. We just picked it up yesterday off the press, so
You can smell it.
So you can enjoy the walk to final. We're going to put this outside because it's kind of smelling good.
Yeah. All right.
So this was the present. We always want to come bring presents. We bring models, we bring toys. This is one of today's presents. All right, so let's walk this over this direction.
When does it go up?
Well, as soon as we get some help from you guys, I think we need to enlist you guys for a little bit of support on getting this thing in place. Yeah, so I think we need to collaborate on that.
That's number one. I guess I'll take it. Okay, item number two, a website. Working with a large group is notoriously challenging, keeping everyone informed, keeping everyone in the loop. You guys especially are very, very adamant about making sure you have everyone's attention and everyone has an input and everyone has eyes on what's going on, so nothing feels like it's being funneled through someone that has ultimate control. We completely understand this, so one of the opportunities we wanted to offer, suggested at this time, is the potential to craft for you a website, sort of a landing page that we can regularly update to keep you and anyone who wants to log into this, everyone in the congregation, use it as an outreach to get additional people coming to your congregation, getting people donating to your congregation. This is a tool we want to use so that we don't have to simply funnel things through you guys, and we can distribute it at a slightly larger scale and a larger pace to folks. So that's things like potential renderings, images, drawings, anything, updates from meetings like this, postings of videos like this. All those things have a place to land. I know you guys have a YouTube page, but we'd love to use that for this as well. So three kind of simple ideas. One, just kind of a written update potentially that comes from you guys on board, sort of your perspective of this. Our architectural update will be a button that kind of can lead to other spots, and then the very important almighty donate button. So if you like what you see, why don't you drop a couple shekels in. So we can craft that. We haven't started it yet. If we get the go ahead on that, we're happy to launch into that right away. We're ready.
Is this a website or a portal?
We would call it a website. A portal would be probably an active two-way sort of thing. It's more a one-directional, password protected if you wish. So with that, we could.
I don't know.
And it could, I mean, you could put a link on your website to it. That could be.
Right. So as images come together, that's what we want to start filing and filling that. So this is sort of a topic we can cycle back to and just get this thing sort of ratified and blessed, and we'll move on immediately. Quick update on consultant coordination. One of our tasks was bringing together a group of contractors, a small group that we sort of pre-vet, that we can bring them into the framework early and get them doing some pre-designed services. And those pre-designed services are looking over our shoulder at what we're doing and saying, this is something achievable, this is affordable, this is something that could make some sense moving forward. So we recommend bringing them on early, and we have collected a few. I've got a couple from Phoenix that are actually interested in coming down here and trying to earn this work for you guys. And you guys down here obviously have local contacts that want to be in that meeting as well. So these are people we want to put in front of you guys to interview them. We'll be part of your team to help vet what kind of questions to ask them and what we should be looking for, and get somebody involved very quickly. So by the end of SD, schematic design phase, we can have some dollar and cents input from someone who's got a skin in the game that could actually make this thing. The next critical sort of design piece is our landscape architect, who is based on the East Coast, is going to be joining us here in June for about half a week. So he'll be flying out, working probably out of your guys' office after we see the site and have design sessions with them once you guys return from your travels. Other consultants. Civil is civil engineering is probably the next critical meeting, and potentially getting our first meeting set with the folks at Pima County to begin the pre-development meetings with them.
So restrooms. So there's been a desire for gender-neutral restrooms. And I spoke with Pima County, and they are on board with that idea. There's now no longer in Pima County a requirement for men's and women's restrooms. And so we've looked at multiple ways to do that. In all cases, there is a, generally we can do a family restroom as part of that, so that there is a sink together with the water closet. So that's an option as well. So so just to kind of show the distinction, this is sort of what we're all used to. You have to pick a side, and you go into one side or the other. This is just an example. These are just examples of other projects. So this is one way to do a gender neutral, where you have multiple water closets. And in this case, they have real walls and real doors. So not your kind of typical partition. Community sink. Urinals are typically handled in a separate room that you actually have to enter. And then we can have an ADA stall with the vanity as well.
Yeah,
So-
ADA and family can cover.
Yeah, so that could cover a variety of scenarios where someone needs help or.
What's ADA?
American with Disabilities Act.
Yes, of course.
So wheelchair accessible.
Specific heights on lavatories, specific transition bars and things needed for the toilets, etc.
And the ability to have a 5-foot diameter circle so that someone in a wheelchair can turn, which is required throughout the entire restroom in general, so that somebody in a wheelchair can access the whole restroom. So that will be incorporated in the plans. Parcel. Okay, so did you want to add to that?
No, that's it.
Okay. The parcel split. So last time we talked, we looked at the possibility of splitting the parcel of the north and the south half. And we thought of that as a possibility, but we hadn't fully vetted it. Now that we have, so here, one thing we found out as it pertains to schools is that requires a 5-acre parcel. So what that means is that a split in that case would not allow for a a compliant suburban ranch lot for the remainder. So that is one thing that would make that not a possibility. There are other factors in terms that we'll get into further into the design, which are about how much space we're using for certain things and how much we might want to, consider the possibility to expand. So this was something that once we found out, we thought this may not make sense. Because it closes the door on that possibility.
I guess you lost me. So you're saying because we have religious education, we're required to have 5 acres?
Not the religious education, but if that religious education were to ever become more involved, a school or adult care or anything that would be more than Sunday school, or at least what the code would consider part of the Sunday service or practice, then that would not be.
Which certainly isn't technically where you are right now in the current program for phase 1 or phase 2.
Sure.
But if you did choose to extend, and you didn't want to lock yourself into a position where you suddenly couldn't have a parcel that was open to being considered a parochial school or potentially be a private school, then that would hamper the split that was possible.
And the way the zoning is, we couldn't sell the 2.3?
Not without a rezoning.
2.3 isn't, 2.3 is not
So
going to
rezoning would be a possibility, though, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Probably, it would be a
The answer is
possibility.
yes. The answer is yes, it's possible, but there's a cost that might make it not. Again, so you're doing it for the purpose of making some money out of the land.
Right.
And so if you're putting a lot into it, then you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, if we flash back to the prior presentation or the discussion of your parcel, it was really born of at least our impression that the north half of the parcel is certainly the premium, most optimal, most attractive, desirable for many, many reasons, location, and the south half very much less so. So why not be able to open yourself up to the potential of using that as a revenue generator to build your project? But this is the only issue that does close that door. So it's not a closed question. We just wanted to bring it back, cycle it back, because we offered it as a carrot. Didn't fully have the one parochial school line item very well communicated. So we want to come back and just specifically clarify what the challenges really are before you leave. But there is still the option for it. Absolutely.
Was there also the question of whether or not the utilities could come down that side? And if not, it would make it very expensive for anybody to purchase that?
Correct. Yeah, that's an issue we have to look into once we get the civil folks on board.
One more point of clarity. You said parochial school.
Or private school.
It's like Unitarian Universalist school, as opposed to just a generic preschool.
Any school.
Any kind of school.
Any private school. The code refers to
Code specifically
private or parochial or private school.
private.
So it's not about it being denominational, it's about it operating during the week.
Okay.
Which would be, there are other things that, adult care or any other thing that would operate during the week that could fall under that category would then be precluded.
Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so next is probably discussion on the update of the program.
So I'm starting this, or I'm speaking to this partly because I've been working with your program, as some of you know, in the College of Architecture here at the university. And so I've known your program intimately for 6 years, working with about 60 times 60, 360 students or something like that. Each one of them tackling the program that we developed way back in 2008. So I went back to that very recently, and I wanted to make sure that what we were excluding was specifically being excluded, because it was hard for me to let go of things of feedback that I had gotten from all of you way back in the day, and it was hard for me to just cut that off and say, well, we're not doing that anymore. And so I needed to know that we were doing it and not doing it. And so we had I put together a synopsis of that, and then an interpretation of that in a smaller square footage package of about 9,000 square feet. And I submitted it to David, and then it went out to several of you, and then we got feedback on it. So I'll go through this in a minute, but the great thing about that meeting that we had, in spite of the fact that I was ill that day, not feeling too well, we actually came to a consensus and I came to a better understanding of what I could let go, and I was able to actually just let go of stuff that I've been carrying around. Not entirely because, so many of those things are still possible. It's just maybe the square footage isn't, but there's still other ways to satisfy the requirements and the needs and the ambitions of back in 2008. And I believe we can do it without adding square footage, or not much square footage. So so it's still there, but I think we've distilled it now to this list that you see here. The way that this bar chart works is you have all of the. So that's
The very top represents the entire scope.
Yeah.
For both phases. The second bar below, phase 1 and phase 2, and this is just a breakout of those individual items of the lower one.
That's pretty good.
And then you can see proportionally how much square footage is assigned to each of these. And thankfully, we can say that we're achieving quite a bit of efficiency with the latest ideas that we have. So we're actually right in that ballpark, which allows for a little bit of things that haven't been considered, recycling yards and trash cans, and different things like that, little things, but they add to the program. So it's we're feeling pretty good about the efficiency that we're achieving based on the strategies that you'll see in a minute. But I just wanted to put this out there because this is fairly new, though it's a refinement of everything that we've been talking about, everything that you presented to us this go around, but now with very specific information, much more targeted square footages and objectives. So. Yeah.
Could you read through that?
Oh yes, okay, I'm sorry, sure.
Fine print there.
Okay, so right here we're looking at sanctuary at 2,500 square feet, right? And then below that, this is all of this is within the concept of the sanctuary in phase 1. So chancel, which is the main focal point of the practice, so that's 500 square feet allotted for that. Arrival and coffee, which is, what we mean by that is the arrival and coffee or the social living room. You'll see that's the way we're starting to define it. Because as you can see, in phase 2 is when we start to approach having a social hall. But in phase 1, we're looking at a social space that serves as a social hall, but we're not calling it that because we want to put that into the future. So it's a social living room space of 900 square feet. An RE that has multifunction. It can function as a green room and a bridal space at 768 combined for the two of them. That would be 2 classrooms that are conjoined that have a wall that opens and closes to produce 1 room out of 2. Yeah.
They're each 768.
They're each 768.
I'm sorry, you said
So
they're
they're divided.
each 768, or it's divided?
Each room is 768 on either side of the divider. How big is this room, by the way?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Would you
This
guess?
room is? Oh, do you
Guess.
have a?
I have a laser measure. I can measure that. But let me keep on. Let me keep going through this while Okay, so chair and equipment storage, 98 square feet of that. And if we can find more, we'll give you as much storage as we can pack into this thing. I know storage is definitely an issue for you guys. Warming kitchen. It's not a commercial kitchen, but it's a large residential kitchen with enough space for you guys to make great food and to feed a lot of people. So a warming kitchen of about 200 square feet. Gender-neutral restrooms, as we talked about before, 700 square feet of that. Office manager space of 180 square feet, with storage number 1, 98 square feet, storage number 2, 140 square feet. Sound separation room, it's our new PC name for the choir room. So that's 80 square feet. Walls, mechanical, and circulation, because all of these are just the space that we get to occupy, but walls need to make and frame those spaces, so that adds to it for walls. And then mechanical have some space and circulation to get between all these things. That adds 1,386 square feet. So that's all phase 1.
You want this one?
Yes, and so this room is
is roughly 38 by 28, which is, you have
1,060.
1,060.
Okay.
Yeah, and so each of the RE rooms are about 3/4 of this size, but there are 2 of them that can be combined. Yes.
Where is the minister's office?
The minister shares it with the, well, yeah, there's multiple places, but I think it's right now a part of the office manager space.
What is the RE quiet room compared to sound separation? What is the quiet? It means it's separated from the
Is that
sanctuary.
the infants?
To walk away a
That's-
distance from.
Infants.
Potentially for the
Yeah, the infant space. Yes.
I was a few minutes late, so I might have missed something, but is this phase 1 and phase 2 for financial reasons?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. So the total, so all of this aggregates and comes up to here, which is 8,318 square feet, plus or minus, because we're still we're fleshing it out. And as we start to look at the code, and there's always things that add to this, but that's 8,318 square feet, which gets us under the 10. So what is that one?
That's the total.
Oh, total, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, so we're under the 9,000 by a little bit. The 9,000 was a number that was given to us back in the day. And we're under that, and which allows for a little bit of expansion, although we're trying to hold it tight. And then when life is great, well, life is great, but life gets better, and you're ready for it. Social hall comes in at 2,025 square feet, which is an aggregate of social hall, administrative, a manager office, and so additional offices are added, mechanical wall circulation for that, and that happens in phase 2 for a total of 10,744 square feet built out. Yes.
This doesn't include what might be allowed for outside covered space, is that correct? There
Yeah,
might
that's
be
it.
additional.
That's bonus, yeah.
This is interior.
This is conditioned space. And that's my slide. Yeah.
At what point in the process might we be able to get a rough estimate of the cost of a social hall?
That's where bringing the contractors in comes into play.
No, if there's a goal of getting, I mean, our goal is to, I think, make phase 1 and phase 2 disappear and do it all at once, if that's at all possible. It's not that much more of an ask, or if it is indeed possible in what we've got to get to the 10,744 or whatever else we can get, efficiency-wise. But again, this doesn't account for things like the substantial parking and substantial site work that's going to have to be done. There's a lot more these dollars have to do than just make a building. So we obviously have to be sensitive to that, and that is really one of the logical things why we're at least putting a break point in here when we stop, get everything you can possibly get that gives you a home that you're more than satisfied with on day 1, instead of always feeling like, well, we're still waiting for the actual place to get done. That's not what we want to leave this impression with. That's critical, I think, to this whole experience.
And that's part of why I think that this arrival becomes a very important space from the social aspect. And then the RE has ability to have multifunction. So we're thinking in terms of being able to use this that way.
But even those shared unconditioned outdoor gathering spaces, those are places that still, it's outdoor, it's unconditioned, but it's still not free. You still need to have the ground maintained and probably something over your head to shade you. So there's a cost.
Could you refresh my memory how much parking code will require us to have for 250?
Actually, that's the next slide.
So we have that.
All right.
So you want to get nerdy on that? Or?
Sure, I'm going to need that. Okay, so this...
So these aren't legible, so you're going to have to read them. Just read
Yeah, I'll kind of go to the bottom line. This is essentially everything that you just saw on the slide before that. This is the actual spreadsheet, so we can make the computer do the math. This is the plumbing calculation. So this tells us, based on these square footages, how many water closets we need. So basically we need... and then I'll come to the parking. So for plumbing, we need 10 water closets and 3 sinks. And then within that, 2 of them need to be ADA compliant. Parking. So we've done this parking calculation based on all of these spaces. So for the total build, phases 1 and 2, we have a parking requirement. The calculation starts at 88 cars, and then we're allowed an overlap reduction of 20%. So that's the idea that the people using the sanctuary are going to be the people who move to, say, the social hall kind of thing. So it's not that every single space is completely filled up. So that gives us 71 spaces. So 71 spaces are required. 2 of them need to be ADA, and then we need 8 bike parking spaces. And we can have more than that. Those don't take up that much room.
Yeah. The thing that I also know about you is, well, anybody really, I needed it today, a quick drop-off and easy circulation through and all of that. So we're thinking of that stuff too. This is just the code, and the code is very specific as to what's necessary. And you can't know how many spaces until you do all this other math, and it's like this big back and forth sort of thing. But Teresa did a great job, and so that's kind of the minimum that you need. I know you'd like more, but as you'll see, parking is hyper impactful on landscapes. It just takes over. You guys have heard the phrase "less is more" as in architecture, right? In architecture, less is more. No, form follows function. That's the one I meant to use. Form follows function. You've heard that, right?
Yes.
Well, now it's form follows parking. And then parking, as you'll see, is a determinant of a lot of our landscape, and a lot of architecture has to give way to parking. So your ability to negotiate with fewer spaces will go a long way to preserving more of your lot. But that's really up to you, you know. Anyway, so we'll show you some ideas about that. Yes?
Question. Will the number of parking spaces accommodate an event where the sanctuary is full of the 250 people?
It's supposed to. It's the calculation is supposed to achieve that. But there is a overlap reduction, which is, you know, if we're at the 70 spaces, that means that if you're having the sanctuary full and all the other social spaces full as well, and a lot of drivers, then that might be a different situation. My students design for 40 cars, so maybe you guys can do that.
No. It comes in ones and twos.
I know. The way that I did it with my students is that they come in 15 people vans, and they kind of pick each other up. You're probably not going to do that, but that's what we do in school.
Our families aren't that big.
I know. In school, that's a fantasy.
Will code allow us to have an overflow parking lot of just gravel or not? Somewhere.
I think you're allowed to have more parking than that, aren't you? These are
We
minimum.
wouldn't
You can
have to
more.
finish and pave.
Well, it's going to have to be a dust-free surface, and
Yes.
that becomes a bit
Okay.
more of a challenge, which means you have to treat it in some fashion, because as soon as you start kicking up dust, I mean, that is a major challenge.
It's a violation.
It's a violation.
Yes.
So with the restrooms, that's based on how many people? And that's a minimum?
Correct. So,
To it. Well,
yeah.
I see 357, but I can't read the,
Okay, so this is getting into code issues.
yeah.
So there's the number of people that you anticipate having. And then there's the number of people that the code anticipates you having, and the way the plumbing calculation is figured out, which is a international plumbing code issue, is completely different than the parking calculation, which is Pima County development standards. So they have specific numbers. So they look at, for example, the sanctuary, the seating area, non-fixed seating, for 200, or non-fixed seating in a specific size space. They look at that's 1 person per 7 square feet. So that's how many people you can pack in there. Now, parking looks at it differently. They want 1 parking stall per 50 square feet. So each of these spaces has a particular formula in each of these codes to determine an occupancy or a load.
And they're both based on the size of the room, not the number of people. Unless you had fixed seats, then you actually can literally count the fixed seats, and that's the occupancy of the room. But if all these chairs go away, we can obviously pack this room with a lot more people. So that's why the numbers appear a bit more skewed. But, there are code allowances, which mean you don't have to put 250 toilets in your space, because not everyone's going to go every time.
So the code requires, at a minimum, that we have to have 10 toilets.
Correct.
Right. And actually, the code also allows you to substitute a certain percentage of the men's water closets for urinals, or rather substitute urinals for water closets. So you can also add. You could have more, as long as there's even though they no longer require specific gender, they do require parity in terms of urinals versus water closets, in that they wouldn't want to see 10 water closets and 40 urinals. Like, that would seem not fair, right? So they're looking at these specific numbers, but then there's also a reasonableness that they're
Have they recently changed the code so that women are the ones that are always sacrificed in all these, big functions? I mean, have the codes actually changed to come up with the times, or not?
Well, they have, in that now that they are no longer requiring gender-specific restrooms,
okay.
it means that when you're in the restroom queue,
Yeah.
you're all in the same restroom queue, and you don't have a long line at the women's and no line whatsoever at the men's.
What you're referring to, though, is a change in need for like very large occupancy spaces, stadia, arenas, that kind of thing. They do now require a greater percentage for women so that there can be some parity in the line. They have acknowledged that need.
Good.
Yeah.
While we're on restrooms, are you incorporating our young kids in RE using that same restroom, or will there be some small toilets, sinks, whatever?
I assume there's going to have to be a smaller wing for the kids.
Yeah, but they're all grouped, right now they're grouped together. This is some of the feedback that we'd love to get from you. If it makes more sense to put it closer to the RE and if they're small little toilets, maybe we do that. Yes?
And they adapt to changing tables and things like that?
Yeah, those are required now.
Okay.
Yeah. Which also, that's something, then we only need one changing table rather than one in the men's and one in the women's.
Right.
So.
On to the restrooms. Any more questions?
So any more parking questions? We're going to get to show you how this stuff looks on a plan here very, very shortly. So that's the point. But I appreciate everyone's interest. So this also is a little bit in terms of reflection. We want to give you just a little bit more information on where we stand in terms of a rehash of what we spoke about last when we got together, and just talked about the benefits and the challenges of the site.
Mm-hmm. So there you can see the impact of, I believe that's 80 cars.
77.
77 cars? 77 cars. So
That's a big space.
it is a big space. So if you think you want 160 cars, double that. So that just gives you a sense of what happens with the cars. And so we won't get to, and then what else can we talk about this one on the?
Well, I think just a reminder of the logic of why we were talking about the north half of the property. So north is now facing my direction, in case you missed the fact we turned this. So Cortero Farm Road is over here. And just as a reminder, there's the very strong, rich, dense veg of creosote, of the saguaro that are in the front. All of this stuff is the front yard that we're very adamant about maintaining and making sure that we have no adverse impact upon. We have a natural route into the site that is most level with the road, so this makes for the most logical place. It's the place that also has the current most amount of disturbance. So we want to just utilize the things that are already sort of scarred and repair the things that aren't. So it's not strikingly visible in this, but you really can begin to see where some of the scars and tracks are. So we're beginning to really make sure we are both positioning entry drives for sort of the handsome entry sequence, competent drop-off, avoiding as much natural vegetation as possible so that we can maintain and retain everything possible. as well as utilize the areas that are already damaged and disturbed. While we can be in this front part, which is the most exciting and most prominently interesting part of the property.
The other thing that I tell my students is wherever you see those orange lines, the topography lines be tight together, where they're really close together, that's steepness.
That's what I'm sorry.
It's steepness. That's a steep area of the site. And wherever they're spread apart, that's more flat. And so with the idea of creating a campus that flows out and then there's being able to move without going up and down a lot, you can see that that's also another reason why we're beginning to look at those two bars, those rectangular bars that start to speak to the potential for a campus. The campus is also we're starting to look at an efficiency, at the efficiency of the campus itself, where we organize it into as simple a geometry as possible, both for economy and also for a minimal impact footprint on the site. So that's what you're starting to see in this diagram as well.
So the two boxes that Luis is talking about, this one sort of at an angle right here, and this one here, we're labeling these sort of possible building location number 1 and 2. And each of these, take up a proportion of about 75 feet by about 240 for this one, and this one's slightly narrower and slightly deeper at 270 by about 60 on that one. And these things are tuned so that these green X's right here, these are these prominent, cactus that we want to make sure we can nestle up against without intruding upon them. But one thing to notice about one of these moves where it's tilted, it's not about sort of the shaping of the site, but it is about sort of the beginnings of in association with some distant vistas. So the Catalina Mountains to the northeast and the Tucson Mountains roughly to the west roughly queue up on this axis. So doing something where these things can open up sort of broadside, or we're beginning to think forward as potential views for these guys.
And each of these rectangles represent the campus, the entire campus.
Including
full
courtyards
correct.
and contained exterior spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's get to it. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Could I make a comment?
Yes.
It seems like it would be lovely to have the